Now, the Power Ministry has called for a truce between the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission (PURC) and the Electricity Company of Ghana. This comes as Joy News is learning that the power distribution company has indicated that it cannot pay the sanction imposed on it by the PURC. Last week, PURC slapped the ECG with an over 200,000 cedi sanction for the two-day strike by its workers, which affected customers of the company. The ECG staff maintained they informed management of the decision to withdraw their services in protest of the ECG being handed to a private concessionaire as part of the Millennium Challenge Compact 2 agreement. Deputy Prime Minister John Jinapor tells Joy News even though the PURC is within its right to act as regulator and give sanctions, there should be greater collaboration in order not to compromise the power sector.
Currently, as I speak, supply exceeds demand, and so we are doing quite well. This year has been fairly stable. If you compare this year to the previous years, it's quite obvious that power supply has been fairly stable. I did crack a joke that I'm no more famous because when people have power, they don't talk about you again. And so it's quite obvious that we are doing well. Apart from the 2-week period when we had a force majeure, which resulted in the non-supply of fuel from Nigeria, which disrupted the power supply, we've been fairly stable. We are doing quite well. And we are confident that going forward, we can continue to stabilize the situation and even improve on the gains that we have made. And so the main issue for us now is to consolidate the gains that we have made, ensure that we supply adequate, reliable, and also affordable power to the people of Ghana. And so I want to thank the people of Ghana for their patience, but clearly we are doing quite well.
Are we still relying heavily on crude, or is more gas now?
It's a mixture. We're getting gas from Atuabo. Our Nigerian counterparts are engaging us, and we are confident that gas will flow from Nigeria pretty soon. We also procure some crude, we procure some diesel, and that is good for us because when you have a mixture and you're able to depend on alternative sources, it's always good because when you depend on only one source, it can create a problem for you. And so diversification is good, and I think that we should encourage that.
Okay. Now, one thing to also look out is the other concerns that have come from the electricity workers pool. They've raised their own concerns about how the handing over of ECG to a private concessionaire is causing some trouble. You've been engaging them in a series of meetings. How far have you gone with that?
We've had a series of engagements with them, the Ministry of Power, the Ministry of Finance, and the Ministry of Employment and Labour Relations. It's met them at different points. We've made quite some progress. There's been some issues that have been ironed out, but the good thing is that the whole matter has been elevated to the level of the presidency. The Chief of Staff himself called a meeting of all the stakeholders. We had our maiden meeting, and we agreed to form a working team. And so all the various interested parties are supposed to send some representation. And I do know that PU is fairly represented, ECG is represented, MEDA is represented, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Power, Ministry of Employment. All of us are represented on that committee, and we are supposed to commence the engagement and deepen the process. And so I'm confident that going forward, we can be able to trash out almost all the outstanding issues. Let me concede that the PU workers have some legitimate concerns, and it's only proper that as a government we engage them, explain the issues, and then if there are teething areas, if there are some critical areas that all of us have to work on, we shall continue to do that.
Do we know how soon this will be resolved?
I do not want to put timelines. We're going to have our maiden meeting as a working group, and so let's have our meeting, let's agree on the roadmap, on the structure and the format in which we want to continue with that engagement, and I'm sure that we can deal with that.
Now, talking of actions of the pool workers and its consequences, now their decision not to work for 2 working days has seen PURC sanction ECG over 200,000 Ghana cedis. What does the ministry make of this?
What we can say is that PURC is an independent body. They have a role to play. Their actions are backed by law. Right? So I'm sure that they believe that it's within their remit to take that action. But beyond that, as I said, we have to engage each other. We have to build confidence. We have to build trust. And we have to ensure that we put the nation first. Because it's not about me. It's not about one person or the other. The most important thing is that we want a resilient working power sector. We want a power sector that is responsive to the needs of the people of Ghana. And so my advice to the staff and union of ECG is that let's remain calm. Let's sit around the table and bring the issues to the table. And I'm sure that we shall surmount all the challenges that confront us.
Because what we're also picking up is that the ECG says they are not in a position to pay the money because it was not directly their fault. The 6,000 workers who laid down their tools on that day could not be replaced realistically.
I'm sure we can engage further. I mean, it's not the end of the road. If sanctions are laid and you have some concerns, I'm sure that you can appeal. And I believe that ECG is doing that. I don't think that the PURC is an intransigent body. I'm sure that they also are aware of the needs, and I'm sure that they are well vested with all the information. And so I believe that they will take that up, and then we'll see how we can resolve it.
Okay. The last part has to do with a certain portion of the concession agreement, section 7.1, which talks about aspects of the agreement and the conditions therein superseding the laws of the country. Has this come to your attention as a ministry?
I've heard of it as a deputy minister. I'm also aware that the matter has been referred to the Attorney General. The Attorney General is a legal advisor of government. The Attorney General, in my opinion, is a repository of knowledge if you take all the ministries into consideration, especially when it comes to legal matters. They are well seized with the facts. And so we'd hold our horses, let the Attorney General look at the issues, let the Attorney General advise us, so that based on the response from the Attorney General, we can then take the next step forward.
But I can only imagine that when this agreement was done, Cabinet, the Attorney General, scrutinized the document. So is this new?
I don't think so. It's just an issue that one party has raised, and I'm told there is a PURC that has raised that concern.
Yes.
And so the best thing is to explain to them, is to respond to them, and I'm sure that if they are satisfied, that will be it. If not, I'm sure that we can take that up from there.
Is it to say that before the PURC raised this concern, government had no concerns with this particular section of the agreement?
It's the PURC that has raised it, and the Attorney General advises us. And so if the PURC believes that they need clarification, and my position or my knowledge is that that is what they want. They want clarification on that clause. And so let's clarify what that clause means, and I'm sure we can take it up.
Okay. Before this issue came up with the PURC, what was government's or your ministry's understanding of that particular section of the agreement?
We are a policy-making ministry. We are supposed to ensure that we deal with the technical aspect of this whole compact, and that is what we are doing. And so anytime we have legal issues, we would normally revert to the Attorney General for advice. And so it's normal. I mean, when you are going through these projects and programs, issues can come up. But I'm sure that when they come up, especially if it's legal, if it had to do with some government policy on energy directly, it should have been within our bosom to deal with that. But
to the extent that the body that sets tariffs for us as a country, that section binds them, is that not something that you found curious to look into some more?
It's too premature to draw that conclusion. Let the Attorney General give us his opinion first. If the Attorney General had said that, look, what it means is that it automatically binds when you can't do anything, and that it supersedes the laws of Ghana, then we'll be discussing it. There's a clause there, it says this, but in legal terms, it could mean something different. And so let's hold our horses. Let the Attorney General explain that to us. Let the Attorney General advise us, and we can take it up from there.
Okay. Are we assured of no power outages from now till the end of the year?
We believe so. We believe so. All things being equal, we think that we should have stable supply of power, because so far, as I said, we have excess capacity. In addition to that, we are bringing on more capacity. In fact, AXA is virtually completing their project, and when they complete, it means that another 370 megawatts of capacity will come on. Car Power's 450 megawatt barge is also ready, and so that will also be coming on. And so give and take, we expect another 600 megawatts minimum of additional capacity coming on in the short term.
And that's the Deputy Power Minister, John Jenapo there. We'll pause now, come back and bring you sports here on The Pulse. Stay with us.